first off, Rachel, I've only just started listening to talk radio, and it's so refreshing to hear opinions that match, obviously,
That's good.
my personal feelings. The PMQ today was just absolutely atrocious. I mean, I'm someone who sits shouting at Keir Starmer, disagreeing with things that he says, but he hit the nail on the head, really. Why Boris is even apologising if nothing happened. You don't apologise if you've not done anything wrong. So that in itself, to me, speaks volumes. You know, the Queen was having to sit on her own at the funeral for her husband, and they just completely disregard every single sacrifice that everybody's had to make over the past 18 months. It's absolutely disgusting, and an inquiry isn't going to solve it. You know, they're using certain people as scapegoats now, I think, and I think they'll get rid of them, hope it all blows over, and it's not good enough. You know, there needs to be an overhaul, and I think it's time that Boris has to go. It's just
well, a lot of people are saying that. I mean, that this could be the moment where, I mean, I doubt what he's going to, Sacha. I mean, it would be weird because he's a guy that wants to, you know, clearly hang around and make his mark on British politics. But I think there's a genuine feeling that this, in my other half, who doesn't normally get too animated about this stuff, said to me on a text earlier, I think he's finished. I think this is it.
It's just, how do you trust the people that are supposed to be running the country when, like the lady who was on earlier, the nurse said, it's one rule for them and another for everybody else. You know, the mask mandates, everything. There's always somebody in Parliament high up who breaks those rules, and they're undermining their own policy at the end of the day.
That's
they bring in
indeed. And if there's going, I was going to say, if there's going to be a press conference this afternoon, Sacha, and this kind of, you know, a change to the rules is going to come in any form, I don't know how the Prime Minister with a straight face is going to expect people to adhere to that after what we've just seen.
No, and what's even more disgusting is he's trying to avoid taking any accountability for what's happened by saying it happened over a year ago. I know people that couldn't celebrate birthday parties, that couldn't celebrate anything because they were so scared of getting fined. People that have been fined, you know, and what's going to happen to them? Nothing, because they're in Parliament. You know, it's shocking.
It is. Listen, Sacha, great call. Thank you for that. And I tell you what, I do sense it's kind of reminded me a little bit of Zara Sultana, the Labour MP, who had made quite a lot about. You saw all of this, Ryan, about the face masks. Now, she had even said at one point, and I'm going to have to paraphrase here, but I won't be disloyal to the truth. She'd said something on the lines of, you know, I sit in Parliament. She might have even said this on the television, and I sit in the Houses of Parliament and I look across at the Tories mostly not wearing their face mask. And she said, I feel unsafe. I feel unsafe. And she'd made this point a couple of times about the face mask thing. And that, you know where I'm going with this, don't you? And then, of course, dear old Zara is caught not once but twice. Once, I think she was at a bash, some kind of do, where she was happily smiling away for the cameras. And the other one was she was in the back of a taxi. And had a picture taken with the driver or something of that nature. So, with the same thinking, I have a feeling what we're going to see over the next week are other examples of parties that took place in the political establishment. We know about the Sky. I'm surprised Beth Rigby and dear old Kay are allowed on air during this period, because that's difficult for them to discuss unless they put some kind of caveat in there. But I've got a feeling that somebody's going to come out with it and go, oh, yeah, do you know what? The Labour Party, actually, the shadow culture team had, or whoever, had a bit of a bash around about the same time. Watch this space. Something like that is bound to happen. And Ian Elise says, the thing is, Ian, I mentioned, I don't know if it was Ian that mentioned the politics of our nurse. We've seen this with the BBC, drag many NHS staff on air to trash the government. Then we see their Facebook page and they are raging left lunatics who despise this country and just saying it's nice to know these people's real agenda. By the way, I think Boris is finished. He's a joke, so I'm not looking to defend him. Actually, Ian does make a fair point on thinking that now. That is a good point. I think with this, my thinking is it almost doesn't matter because the reality is there for all to see. Hospitals and staff were up against it, and we all know that at that time. So it wouldn't have been quite as relevant, but I do take the point, and it's a good one. Jean is in Felixstowe. What are you thinking, Jean? Afternoon to you.
Afternoon to you, Ian.
Hiya.
It's just that while I'm not necessarily standing up for Boris Johnson, although I did send him a card when he won the election, also when he was so ill,
Okay.
my husband John and I are totally bemused as to why this number 10 party, if it took place, is taking up such enormous importance now when there are so many other things happening in the world that deserve attention. And why did it take a year before it even came to our notice?
Yeah. And I wonder who released the footage of it as well.
Even if the rules were broken, I know of many other people, even in my road, who have at the very least bent the rules last year. I mean, I must confess, my husband and I went over and spent Christmas Day with our daughter and her family.
Yep.
And we intend to do the same this year. So, I'd like to know, why it's all taking such precedence now, with so much other things going on that are very important.
Yeah, no, you're right. It should, and that's almost in a curious way, and you've kind of answered a question there because it shouldn't take precedence. But of course, it is slightly game changing in the sense of how much we trust our government. But I hear what you're saying, Jean. Thank you for that.